This is our fourth video in the series. This is the second part on communication. Hopefully making nutritional counseling more effective for you, less intimidating, and improve compliance. I'm Dr. Paul Varnes. If you have any questions, you can reach me at that phone number, or my personal email is onearborvitae@comcast.net. And a small reminder, all this material is in a manual. You can download it, and if you use the coupon code nutrition, you'll save 60%. Brings the price to about $20. That's at practicebump.com. Okay, let's recap. Our goal is to help chiropractors become the go-to practitioners for the chronically ill. And I personally believe that if everyone had a basic knowledge of nutrition, just really simple stuff, and consistently presented it to their chronically ill patients, that would get us there. 10% of what nutritional experts know fixes 90% of the problems. So if you're offering an anti-inflammatory diet and some basic supplementations to all your patients, we can accomplish that. And the wellness program, as simple as it is, you'll be amazed at how many kinds of chronically ill people get better. And in the first video, we showed you how to set up a wellness program and market it in your office. Throw away all your magazines and put materials in there that help get people involved with your wellness program. The second video, which was long, and I apologize, was about ethical marketing and effective marketing. Hopefully you got an understanding of what inbound marketing is and how to focus on existing patients. And we covered a little bit about direct marketing. And in the last video, we covered communication, mostly using body language, matching and mirroring, pacing, talking at the same rate as people. Actually helps build rapport and you'll be surprised at how much better your advice is followed. And today we're going to talk about Milton Erickson and language. Milton Erickson was a psychiatrist, psychologist, and thought to be the foremost practitioner of medical hypnosis of his time. His work was modeled by Bandler and Grinder, the co-founders of NLP. We're just touching the surface here. NLP is something really, really, really worth learning, and there are seminars in it. I'm just going to cover some basics in language patterns. Some of you will really appreciate it and understand it. To some of you, it might seem a little bit odd. All I can say is that it works. There's a deeper form of communication. The language patterns can actually be strung together to create a hypnotic trance. That's if you take the hypnosis classes with NLP. But I find that just using them here and there, you just get a better result, as simple and as odd as they may sound. And I guess the best way to explain this is, if something's a little bit confusing to the conscious mind, the unconscious mind seems to grasp it a little better. First pattern we're going to talk about is something called switching referential index. Stories and metaphors are powerful tools in patient education. You tell a story about a patient from the past and switch the reference to the patient you are talking about. For instance, I had a patient who had trouble following the dietary advice at first, but when you stick with it, it becomes easier. So you start talking about one patient, but then you actually start to talk about the patient that's in front of you. This is a powerful way to deliver your message. It's all I can say about it. The use of analogies is also very powerful. You can combine it with switching referential index. Okay, so if a piano hasn't been tuned in a long time, it goes out of tune quickly. You tune it again in a week, and it goes out of tune very quickly. Eventually, it begins to stay in tune. Chiropractic adjustments are like that. We're teaching your spine and nervous system to be in tune. At first, you have to do it frequently. Eventually, it begins to hold. Analogies and metaphors just seem to make people understand what you're trying to accomplish. Using stories and parables is also very powerful. Why do you think Jesus did it? For instance, if you remember the story of the little engine who could, it was difficult at times, but he persisted, and you will find that minor setbacks will not keep you from your goal, should you keep that goal in mind. Many people have difficulty controlling pain, but when you persist in your treatment, you'll find that it gets better. And you notice that we added the switching referential index there. And what we're trying to accomplish here is to give you better ways of talking to people other than saying stop eating sugar, stop smoking. Um, how you phrase these things really do make your advice followed. Okay, orienting toward the future is a very powerful thing. How good will you feel when you stop smoking? Much more powerful than saying stop smoking. Also, questions seem to be much more powerful than statements. Indirect suggestions are better than direct suggestions. A direct suggestion is like a command and is filtered by the conscious mind and can be challenged. So if you say don't eat sugar, they're going, well, I can't. The conscious mind gives you all the excuses and things that keep your patients from listening to you. Whereas if you say something like that, fatigue will get better when you give up sugar. It's presupposed that they will do that. I wonder how soon you will give up sugar. I wonder how soon you'll begin to feel better. Talk indirectly. The unconscious mind is much more receptive. And something like this tool is very very good. Embedded questions, because you don't want to say you will feel better tomorrow. Once again, one of the things that make docs shy away from doing more holistic things, treating more kinds of people, is that they don't, they want to make promises or guarantees. But you can use an embedded question to accomplish the same thing. It's really a statement, and you don't let your voice go up at the end. But you can say, I'm curious to know how much less pain you will have tomorrow. Okay. There's no guarantee in there or anything, but you're getting the idea across that this should work, this should help. And also talk about mismatchers. Mismatchers are people that you say, oh, I want you to do this or that, and they'll give you 19 excuses why, and everything you say, they interrupt. You can't get them on a train of thought. And so if you add the words or not, it stops them dead in their tracks. So if you say, I'm curious how much less pain you will have tomorrow, so, well, they'll argue with you a lot of times. So I'm curious to know how much less pain you'll have tomorrow or not, stops that conversation from happening. The words or not are really useful for those kinds of patients. Ambiguities are, the most familiar form is a pun, which is also called a phonological ambiguity. For instance, let's heal your plantar fasciitis. Okay, it's a pun, takes the conscious mind out of the action and gets your idea across. There are also punctuation ambiguities. For example, how are you feeling better now? So you're saying, how are you feeling? Are you feeling better now? But you kind of mesh the two things together. And the unconscious mind gets the message, feeling better now. Okay. And you can connect it to a pun. That diet is common in countries found on the Mediterranean. See how much better it makes you feel. Okay. You were combining the pun along with the punctuation ambiguity. Another great tool for patient compliance is something called a single bind. Okay, so for instance, don't have me write this down unless you really want to change your habits. Okay, you're actually creating an agreement with the patient. They're not passively listening to advice that they can take or leave. So you make them commit to what you're doing. A double bind gives the illusion of choice, but either choice is the direction you want them to go. This is great with kids, by the way. It's, do you want to go to bed now or do you want to watch TV for 10 more minutes before you go to bed? The message is go to bed. Whereas if you say it's time for bed, you're going to get an argument. We can use this concept in your office. I don't know if you'll begin to feel better now or feel better later. I don't know if you'll really get serious about following the diet now or later, but when you do, you will feel much better. Once again, orienting them towards the future. It's a lot better than nagging them about whether they're following the diet. The unconscious mind begins to understand, okay, this is expected, I'm going to do this. Okay. Do you want to follow the nutritional advice all at once or incorporate a little at a time? Once again, the illusion of choice, but the idea is to get them to follow your nutritional advice. Tag questions will often soften your statements. Okay, so you're having an easier time following the dietary advice, aren't you? People who eat well feel better, don't you think? And once again, this is a good thing to do with mismatchers. Because frame is also very useful. Because is a powerful word. It almost doesn't matter what comes after. It works because people want to hear reasons for things. For example, you'll find it easier to follow the dietary advice because your body knows what it wants and it wants to get better. And you can use it with a double bind. You can combine these. And like I say, Milton Erickson, when he did these, would string bunches of them together and actually create a trance and produce hypnosis. The story about him meeting with a board to have his license revoked and getting his license back, not having his license revoked and having no one remember what was said is kind of an example of that. I mean, this is hypnosis, and there are courses in this. But if you change how you say things to people, it really does help with compliance, patients' understanding, patients' expectations, and so on. So with the double bind, I don't know if you'll want to stop smoking now or if you want to stop next week, because this important development is really between you and your unconscious mind. Like I say, once you use the word because, it really doesn't matter what follows. But if you can make the because fit a reason they value, freedom, money, family, it will be much more effective. You'll quit smoking easily because you know it will improve the health of your children, for instance. Or you will follow the dietary recommendations because it will give you the freedom to live as you please. Okay, especially people that are getting older, they don't want to become dependent. It will give you energy. Whatever reason you put in there, tie it to something that they value. Yet is another useful word. It implies that the person will follow your instructions at a later time. For example, is it true you aren't following all of the dietary advice yet? Much more powerful than saying, than haranguing them for not doing what you told them. And once you say yet, it means that it's expected. They're going to do this. They might do it now. They might do it later. You get the idea. Negative commands. The brain does not recognize negative commands. So that's why when you say to a child, don't spill your milk, actually the unconscious mind only hears spill milk. It's better to say, be careful with that so it stays in the glass. The brain wants to do what you tell it not to do. The word not is not recognized. That's another reason why don't eat sugar, don't eat junk food, whatever. It's not an effective way to get that message across. And you could use the fact that negatives aren't recognized to your advantage. Don't get better too fast because you won't appreciate how good the therapy is. I won't tell you to quit smoking because you already know how important that is. Okay, much better than saying don't smoke. The word but is also very powerful. I could tell you how important it is for you to change your diet, but you already know that. Collect quotes. It helps get your message across, and it's even better if someone actually said it, or someone famous said it. For instance, Omar Bradley said, the best way to live a long life is to get a chronic disease early and take very good care of it. It's one of my favorite. Adele Davis says, every day you choose either to build your health or to damage your health. I forget the exact quote. But get a bunch of these because, there's even some biblical things that you could use. It's just more powerful than if you come up with the statement on your own. One I like is Oliver Wendell Holmes says that if the entire pharmacopoeia, meaning all the drugs in the world, were thrown into the ocean, it would be better for mankind and worse for the fishes. Another favorite of mine is Ambrose Bierce, who defined a prescription as something that will prolong the situation without actually killing the patient. And I realize this set of information is a little bit different. Some of you will really appreciate it and enjoy it. Some of you, it might seem a little odd. But if you go through it, and especially if you have the manual, and start changing how you give your advice, you'll be amazed at how much better it's listened to. Also, it gives you a way to say this is something positive without making guarantees. Like with an asthmatic, for instance, the wellness program will help most asthmatics. Any chronic disease really. And instead of saying, "Oh, this will help you," or you're giving them an expectation, you can tell stories. You can talk about a patient that it helped, and a patient that you had to work a little harder for. It's just a very effective way to communicate. Like I say, you'd probably be better off if you get some books on NLP. If you see a seminar that teaches this stuff. and actually do some of the exercises, you'll get a deeper understanding of it. It is very useful. I'm Dr. Paul Varnes. My company's Whole Health America. My phone number is 773-519-0007. Respond much better to email. My personal email is onearborvitae@comcast.net. I hope you found this useful. We're going to get into more clinical things after this.